This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to the Onside Kick. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And it's nice, Mark, to actually have you in the studio this week. You're not calling in on the MVP hotline, and we don't get that weird kind of buzzing sound that we had last week.
From the phones, yeah. You know, it's tough. iPhone, don't know if it's the most trustworthy thing as opposed to a landline, but who really uses landlines anymore?
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's kind of like I was watching the latest John Oliver, and he even made a joke at that, where he's like, when your cable and internet package together landlines, who uses those anymore?
You know what? Actually, I do know somebody who uses, they've got like the triple package or whatever it is. They got the internet, they got their cable, and they have the landline, but they just don't own any phones.
They just don't own any phones.
No, they have the number. You just can't do anything with it. You can call it, but no one's going to pick up.
But before we get into everything that we've got to talk about in this podcast, I have a special birthday announcement.
Yeah?
A special football birthday announcement. A happy birthday to a certain running back in the Great White North who runs for my Minnesota Vikings. It's Adrian Peterson's birthday today as we are recording this podcast on Tuesday, or on Monday, I should say.
What do you know?
So a little bit of a happy birthday to AP.
Just a little bit of a happy birthday.
Just a little bit of a happy birthday.
Not too happy.
And I also learned this, if he rushes for the most yards next season, he will be the oldest running back to do so. As he is now 31 years old.
So now we're expecting a steep decline.
The steep decline of Adrian Peterson?
Yeah,
is
he's going to run
expecting?
for like 500.
Well, if he ran for 500 yards, I would be a little concerned, Mark, just a little bit. But today on the podcast, we're going to be talking quarterbacks, a bounty here. I hope I said that right, a bounty, yeah, whatever. But we're talking RG3, we're talking Johnny Manziel, and then we're talking the Black Unicorn, Martellus Bennett, who is a New England Patriot. And we're going to start in the city of Cleveland.
As all good stories start.
All good stories or all bad stories?
All good stories start in Cleveland.
But RG3 apparently just finished up a 2-day visit with the Browns. Is RG3 the perfect quarterback for Hugh Jackson and the Cleveland Browns?
You know what? I look at the options that are out there. We're going to take Ryan Fitzpatrick out of the conversation because he's really not a good option because he wants so much money. And he'll probably end up with the Jets. But you look at some of these guys, and it's like Johnny Manziel, RG3, and then you're thinking, all right, what else is out there? You know, maybe you steal one of these backup quarterbacks, something like that. You know, there's nothing good available. And when they're thinking about trading for Colin Kaepernick and the price is a second-round pick, well, by default, RG3 is the best option. He's going to be the cheapest for the best kind of potential.
Would he be cheaper than if they took Carson Wentz at number 2?
I
want to say cheaper just because of that second overall pick money.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to pay RG3 that much money.
And at the same time, I mean, that does give them the option to say, hey, we've got the veteran. Now we got this young guy. You know, maybe we'll let him sit. Maybe we'll let him sit and learn for a little bit. You know, because all these quarterbacks could use that. Especially a guy like Carson Wentz. He needs to kind of, you know, take some time to get up to the speed of the NFL. So, I mean, I think that RG3 really is a great stopgap option. Because I think going for RG3, even if they traded for Colin Kaepernick, neither one of these two options is going to stop them from drafting a quarterback number 2 overall.
Yeah, well, yeah, no matter, like, even I wanted to say, well, if they got Ryan Fitzpatrick somehow, then that would be, oh, well, they don't need to draft a quarterback.
Nah, he's old.
Let's be honest. They need to find the future of that franchise. And even if they do get a RG3's not he's not the future of the Cleveland Browns. He'd be a stopgap, so you can eventually maybe get somebody in there who's going to be maybe, okay, if you get an RG3 or even a Ryan Fitzpatrick, maybe it makes it to where you can go, because let's be honest, we're all assuming that Laramie Tunsil may be the number 1 overall pick for the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
So what the Titans maybe, like, originally what it was, oh, well, the Browns could then go Joey Bosa and then take a guy like Paxton Lynch with their first pick in the second round, which would basically be
because he's
the last
secure
pick of the
now
first
that
round.
the LA Rams say, nope, Case Keenum, that's our guy.
Yeah, well, and
we're good with Case.
And really, it's not even the Rams that I look at as the team that could swoop in. That was all before the Brock Osweiler stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Browns have to sit there and go, okay, maybe we can't do that plan because the Broncos at 31, they could go ahead and take Paxton Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
They could. I mean, we talked about it last week. They do need a quarterback because they don't want Mark Butt Fumbling Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag Mark Butt Fumbling Sanchez as their quarterback.
Yeah. And Mark Sanchez is exactly what RG3 essentially will be too. It's just
Except
kind of
he
a
doesn't
guy to
butt fumble.
It's just a guy to waste time. No, instead he just kind of doesn't have legs. It's just a guy to kind of take some time, give you decent play. You're going to be happy with it. You're going to let the team develop a little bit with RG3 there. And worst thing comes to worst, he miraculously plays like he did his rookie year. And all of a sudden you're looking like the geniuses who drafted got RG3.
How often has
it probably will never
the
happen.
Browns looked like geniuses? I mean,
But I'm saying that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is he's what he's what everybody thinks he is, and then you go, okay, fine, rookie, go ahead. Mm-hmm. And then, continue, business as usual for the Cleveland Browns. It's a good option. Do I think that RG3 is going to play at that level? Do I think that he's going to solve all the problems that are Cleveland problems? No, probably not. He probably doesn't. But I think he will play better than he did in Washington because that really was just a bad environment. And Cleveland, if they're ever going to turn things around, don't you feel like it should be now? Getting the Wolverine in there.
Well, and that's like the one thing I think of, and having Hugh Jackman at the helm, the Wolverine. The one thing I kind of think of is, and this is why you said earlier, well, they're not going to get Ryan Fitzpatrick because he's going to cost too much money. Well, why isn't maybe someone who knows Cleveland sports a little bit more than I, because you might live in the city and may be a fan of the Browns, but from what I can remember, the Browns have never been that team to go out and say, fuck it, we're gonna get the high pay quarterback. We're gonna get the guy, we're gonna spend the money on this quarterback. Usually it's been stuff like, I mean, if you want to count Josh McCown as that kind of a guy, but I mean, if you look at it, Brian Hoyer you could say okay, that's your Brian Hoyer and Josh McCown are the closest thing you have to that. You have Jason Campbell. You have Brandon Whedon, who was drafted by you. Colt McCoy. Brady Quinn. These are guys that would fit the same mold of a Carson Wentz, a Paxton Lynch, to where you drafted them to be your starting quarterback, and then they weren't. They just weren't your starter.
Well, it's tough because the Browns have had 24 quarterbacks since 1999. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of quarterbacks.
They've had a lot.
That's so many quarterbacks to where they have they're getting close to territory where they're going to have to double every single number. Mm-hmm. It's bad. It really is. You sit there and say, is RG3 the perfect quarterback for the Browns? But part of you has to ask, does RG3 want to avoid the Cleveland Browns like they are the plague?
Maybe.
Because there's a lot of teams that supposedly were interested in him. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, you're going to say, okay, yeah, but some of them are going to be very interested in him as a backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. But that Cleveland job with the rookie in there, you don't really know how secure that job is. And maybe they had the conversation, but is it open competition? Does he come in and he's just the starter? What does drafting a rookie at number 2 overall do to the supposed starter of former second round overall, RG3?
Well, I mean, if I'm Robert Griffin III, I would not, honestly, I wouldn't want to go to a situation like Cleveland. And the main reason why is unless I have it verbal agreement or, you know what, fuck it. Unless I have it written down on paper that...
And even then, they'll rip that shit up. That doesn't mean anything.
It's hard for me because I don't want to come from the side of where RG3 should sound entitled to the fact where it should be, well, this starting job is mine. I want it mine from when I enter. Shouldn't be that entitled because what have you done lately in the NFL? But at the same time, I would feel like, you know what, they're drafting this kid. He's going to be pushing me out. It's just like what the Redskins did when they drafted Kirk Cousins behind me.
Yeah.
I wasn't even, like, they took me second overall, and they then took a quarterback to come in with me who I always felt like I was going to be pushed out the door.
Yeah, and it's going to be exactly that. I mean, if they draft somebody, RG3 knows for a fact that this kid is one day going to start over him. You're not going to be so good that this kid's just, I mean, maybe he believes he's going to be so good, but you're probably not going to be so great that that second overall pick means nothing, and they're like, oh, well, I guess we got a great backup then. You know, that's not going to happen. There are other options. You know, there's the Denver Broncos. Now, with this being said, who knows how interested these teams are, if they're one of these 10 teams that supposedly are interested in him. But the Denver Broncos, the Los Angeles Rams, the Buffalo Bills, possibly the New York Jets if they can't quite figure it out with Ryan Fitzpatrick. There are a lot of teams out there that need somebody that are probably in a better situation than the second worst team in the NFL, Cleveland Browns. And also, you just gotta, I don't know, maybe it's me being kind of a history nerd. You just have to look back and say, what have these franchises done? And when you look at the Cleveland Browns, nothing that you're happy about, nothing you really want to be a part of if you are a quarterback. If you are a quarterback, you really don't want to be a part of the Cleveland Browns because they chew you up and spit you out as fast as they can and get somebody else in there. And for RG3, he just experienced that. He experienced in Washington being the kind of disgraced quarterback. Put, what was it, third string on the depth chart? They did not care about him. They just wanted to get rid of him to where that final game, he's not waiting. He's just packing his stuff and he's going home. I don't think anything really changes that much in Cleveland. Is RG3 the best option? Yeah, he's the best option of quarterback available, excluding Ryan Fitzpatrick. Money reasons and age reasons. But this is the best guy. He's got the most potential. He's got more potential than Ryan Fitzpatrick, that's for sure. He's kind of the buy him low and hope that he lives up to his hype now that he gets that change of scenery. But I just can't. I don't know if I can believe that RG3 will be who he was in that rookie year ever again.
Well, and not even just because of that. Here's my stance on the Cleveland Browns and their quarterback situation. If you sign Robert Griffin III, you're not taking Carson Wentz or Paxton Lynch. Let's be honest. You're taking a guy like Dak Prescott down the line, or you're saying, fuck it, we'll draft a quarterback next year. Because you don't want to deal with having a guy like RG3 have someone behind him that's probably going to take his job.
He just experienced that. He's going to be very nervous about it.
Just have a competition between him and McCown. Guess what? RG3 can probably beat McCown for the starting job. However, here's what I would do if I was the Browns. I would kind of go unscripted. To go off of your comment, how you're the history guy. It's like my dad made a comment yesterday, that famous saying, well, if you don't learn from your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And with the Browns, you're doomed to repeat it unless you go out there and do something different. And that's why I think they need to go out there. As of right now, I'm looking at spotrac.com, and they're saying, according to their figures, Browns have the third most cap room at just over $41 million. Go ahead, make a huge offer for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Do something you have not done in the past. Get a guy like Fitzpatrick.
Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a bad idea.
Now, you may be sitting there, I know exactly what Mark's going to say. That's not a good idea. You're paying on an inflation because Fitzpatrick had what?
For a
one good year?
33-year-old.
For one good year. I'm not saying go out and give him the
These
farm.
guys drafted Brandon Weeden.
But I'm going out there and saying, hey, you know what? Go ahead and try to get Ryan Fitzpatrick and bring in a guy that your fan base can say, okay, I'm confident with this quarterback. Am I still not optimistic because we're the Cleveland Browns? Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. But at least we went out there, we got a quarterback that, because let's be honest, you're not going to go out there and get a guy like Peyton Manning. He's not walking in the door anytime soon. But you can go out there and get the best available free agent with right now is Fitzy.
I don't agree with that decision because you're paying big money for a 33-year-old, and who is known for throwing interceptions. One good year. Now I get you're playing off of last year and you're hoping for the best.
You could say the same thing for Robert Griffin because the last.
No, he's 26.
No, I'm saying the interception numbers because the last kind of full season he had with 13, it's 12 picks.
Oh, for sure. But I'm going to take the 26-year-old over the 33-year-old.
Now I will say age is in the corner of Robert Griffin, but the thing I'm thinking about, and this is where I'm coming from, what have you done for me lately? Fitzpatrick has done great things last year.
With Brandon Marshall, yeah.
With Brandon Marshall, but I mean, you can go ahead and get wide receiver help for him in the draft.
Can you get Brandon Marshall, though?
You can get Broxton Miller. Broxton Miller's no Brandon Marshall.
No, he's not.
But you can go ahead.
I mean, technically, they could go get Laquan Treadwell. They could get the best guy on the board.
Or you can trade back your number 2 because I think Treadwell at 2 is a reach, no matter what it is.
He's a top 10 pick.
Yeah, but you can trade back a little bit maybe for a guy who...
Number 2 is hard to trade.
Maybe for a team that wants Bosa. Maybe for a team that wants Carson Wentz if the Titans go at Tunsil. Or what you can do if they go Tunsil, you can go to Jacksonville and go, hey, you want this pick or else we're taking Jalen Ramsey. And Jacksonville, like that would be, I mean, draft day because it's the Browns and the Jaguars. Yeah. But, you know, they could do something like that and then get a Treadwell.
I really think for the Browns, I don't think RG3 should want to be the Browns quarterback because I don't think anyone should want to be the Browns quarterback.
I mean, Hugh Jackson, though, the Wolverine is a bright spot.
If it's going to turn around, now is the time where it's going to happen. But I think they should go grab RG3, make a commitment that this is our starting quarterback for next season for sure. After that, you know, we're going to hope.
Not even open competition with McCown?
No, he is not even open competition with your number 2 overall pick, Carson Wentz, or Jared Goff, whoever they want. You draft that quarterback, whoever you're happy with, and you tell them, no, you are going to sit for a year. It's just going to happen. You don't do one of these. Who was the last guy who was told he was going to sit? Was it Teddy Bridgewater who was told he was going to sit? Or was it, I feel like it might have been Ryan Tannehill who was told you're going to sit for a year. And then a few games in, he's starting all of a sudden. You don't do one of those.
I think it was Teddy. It may have been Teddy.
You say you were going to sit.
Because we had Matt Castle at the time.
Oh, of course, the glorious Castle. You are going to sit for a year. RG3 is our quarterback. After that, you can compete. But right now, this is our guy. Because you just want a guy who's going to sit and learn. Do something that nobody in the NFL does. You're talking about how the Browns need to do something different. Here's something different. Stop the revolving door. 24 quarterbacks since 1999? That's terrible.
It was
Teddy.
It was Teddy because he entered as the second string quarterback behind. He was behind Castle, but ahead of Ponder, and then he made his debut on September 21st against the Saints.
Yeah,
because Castle got injured
quite a bit earlier than a year. Now, of course, injury is a different story, but I don't think Castle would have made it.
That was the 4th game into the year.
Castle wasn't going to start that whole thing. You just need to make the commitment, do something different. Say, hey, this revolving door is done. It's this guy right now. This is the end of it. And let that rookie learn. No, he's not. It's not like he's learning from Peyton Manning, but he can learn from your quarterback's coach, your offensive coordinator, your head coach. He will learn things and get adjusted.
I think the perfect example of that is Aaron and up in Rodgers. Rodgers is up in there in Green Bay. But he's the perfect example because you hear stories with him and Favre. Favre wasn't teaching him shit.
Yeah.
Favre wanted the job over him. He'd get back, young fella. Kind of like I kind of saw the same relationship between Peyton and Brock.
Yeah, Brock tries to put that helmet on, and Peyton's
goes,
already
nope,
out.
I'm in there.
Yeah.
I'm coming back. I'm Mr. Steal Your Job. That's what I am, Peyton Manning. Going to win a Super Bowl with your job. But so you don't need RG3 to teach the new guy shit. You can have the coaches do that. You can have Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz for a year or two can be exactly what Sean Anderson always makes a joke with me and you, where he shows us that picture of Wentz with the clipboard, with the headset and the clipboard.
Exactly.
He could basically be that. But
I mean, you think about the last two great backups that came in and just were doing great, or at least good, as I like to say. Brock Osweiler, he's one of them. He's the last one, and honestly, the one after that's probably Aaron Rodgers. Who's the next backup that just came right in and kicked ass?
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, you can say Kirk Cousins too. A backup who, he had his chances and didn't really take advantage of them. But after a while, he did it and he
took advantage
turned it on.
of it. Yeah.
So it's doesn't happen in the NFL often, but if you sit a guy and you let him learn for a while, you got some good examples of things that can happen.
I'm even trying to think of other backups that have done that, and
not in today's NFL.
Could you say, now this may be a stretch, but I'm going to say Matt Castle the year Tom Brady got injured.
I would give credit to the system.
So you wouldn't
I wouldn't give credit to Matt Castle.
To Matt Castle at all. But I'm trying to think of other teams, and really I can't see one. Maybe, no, that was more of a benching than an injury with Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith. That was more of a benching than a kind of...
And also, Colin Kaepernick's a little bit of a different story. He's kind of just the freak athlete, and that's what he did for that whole season.
I was thinking because he took over for Alex Smith. That's what I was thinking. But the bottom line with the Browns, I am saying, even though I may be in the minority, I think I'm in the minority, that says do something that you have done differently in your history. Go out there, spend the money on a guy like Fitzpatrick that your fans can wrap themselves around. And be like, okay, at least we got a quarterback who did well last season and can maybe bring some success to this Browns team.
For about a year, and then it's over.
Well, maybe that's all you need him for. Because you'll have then that way you do draft a Carson Wentz. Whereas, Mark, you're on the side of take RG3.
He's the best one out there. He's your best option. But make sure you get that quarterback that you want, too.